Alright, guys. Got a special topic for you today. Magazines. Not books, because books are like, mythical creatures now. I'm just kidding. People read all the time, I hope. Remember books? I remember I used to knock out a novel, like in 3 weeks. Actually, I had to like it. So a lot of Clive Barker, not so much Stephen King, Tom Clancy. I like those political thriller kind of stuff. That was kind of interesting. A lot of horror, a lot of sci-fi. And that was the thing. I had to kind of enjoy what I was reading to progress. Kind of like learning a language. If you don't enjoy the language you're learning, it's going to be harder. Nowadays, audiobooks. Given work and family life, it's really hard for me to stay awake half the time. So I could open up a book and I could like it, and because I read a lot of military biographies. I do. I love history, and more books I would just burn through in a couple weeks. But now I find myself, nodding off, and it's ridiculous. So yeah, but God bless audiobooks. That's all I gotta say. Audio dramas, because I'll go in between. So if it's a history subject and I go the audiobook route, um, it'll be between, depending on the availability of Audible or audiobooks now. And it's cool. It's cool. It's like someone narrating it. I know that might sound taxing and boring, but like I said, if you're interested in the subject and someone's kind of energetic in their voice talking about it, think of like if Joe Rogan narrated a book, I assume some people would listen to it, but yeah, some people's voice, it carries and it becomes an enjoyable listen. Not so much for others. But I still love fantasy stuff. I'm big into sci-fi, big into Star Wars. So yes, I will get audiobooks, audio dramas, which are like, movies without pictures pretty much. So there's like a big cast, a lot of sound effects. It's like listening to a movie just without the picture. And if you could enjoy, an audio, anything of that, matter, like a long epic song, then it's kind of segues right into that. It shouldn't be a problem. So that's what I'll do, especially like if I'm cleaning or just lounging around. If I don't want to open up a book because I'm afraid I'll nod off, I'll listen to the audiobook version if it's available, or audio drama if it's a fantasy novel. But before all that, even before I actually deep dive into books, I was into magazines, and particular magazines, obviously. I'm going to go through like a whole list of them, then I'll explain them to you why I like them so much. Well, obviously, it's horror related, sci-fi, classic horror stuff. Because what I would do is, this is during the era of, Tower Records or Borders. Like, Barnes and Noble's still around, but, they would have these epic magazine selections. Much like CVS, or, any kind of drugstore has a magazine section. But obviously the bookstores had a bigger selection, and, it was cool. The covers, the more epic the covers, I would always be drawn to. Even before that, I was into comics. I would kind of read the comics. Mostly collect them. I have a whole bin in my basement, actually, filled to the gills with pretty decent comics that span all over the universe. Marvel, DC, Vertigo, Dark Horse Comics, Swamp Thing, Spider-Man, this one, that one. And I appreciate comics. I love the culture. I love the Comic Cons. I just couldn't really invest that much, because then I discovered magazines like Fangoria, Gore Zone, Ultraviolet, Deep Red, Scary Monsters, Famous Monsters, Rue Mourge magazine, Delirium magazine. I could go on and on. And it was cool. It was like watching a behind the scenes featurette of your favorite horror movie, just in magazine form, because the articles were usually really vivid. They would show you all the behind the scenes, the gore footage, and how it was broken down. A lot of cool stuff with Greg Nicotero or Tom Savini, all the horror movie greats, Rick Baker, all those guys. And I know they still make them. I'm almost 100% positive. If you were to go to a bookstore right now, in the magazine section, you would find one of the magazines I mentioned. And I still have a lot of them. A lot of them are dated. And even the metal magazines. I remember collecting a lot of metal, because obviously it kind of went hand in hand. If I liked the music, I wanted to know the people behind the music, So Metal Edge, Revolver Magazine, Kerrang, all those. I would invest heavily. And to this day, I still Guitar World, you know, I still have these. I still have these laying around the house, and every now and then, the bathroom kind of acts as like a library now for a quick read. But no, if I take the time, I'll sit down on my couch and open up a magazine. It's refreshing. But yeah, those horror magazines like Fangoria, Gore Zone, like all the ones I mentioned, they were just so like captivating, kept my attention. Not that I had a crazy ADD thing going on. It's just to actually like absorb the knowledge or all the tips and tricks of filmmaking and stuff. It was fun and exciting, and it's kind of like a lost art. I mean, I don't see people read that much. Because why? You have a phone, you have YouTube, you have a Kindle. If you're into the whole like online reading thing, they made it to where the screen doesn't hurt your eyes, so that's cool. A lot of options to get knowledge and read. Just the days of hardback books, while attractive the cover as they may be, is kind of like a thing of the past now. But I know a lot of people that engage in book reading. There's still book clubs. Obviously, Barnes and Noble, which I thought would go away during the pandemic. I mean, thank God it didn't. But the way stores were dropping like left and right because no one was shopping because they're afraid of getting sick. I really thought Barnes and Noble would go, but it withstood the test of time, just like Best Buy, surprisingly. But you don't see like you're not gonna read your paper and say, oh, there's a new bookstore opening up. Like it's just a thing of the past. I mean, Amazon carries an extensive collection. Like I said, they kind of have to because they invested in Audible, and if you're into like the whole audiobooks thing, which is a great alternative, it's kind of like cheating a little bit, someone reading the book to you, but like I said, it's a good alternative, especially if you can't invest yourself in a thick novel. There's always that. Some people always tell me they have a hard time absorbing it that way, and I totally understand. It's like going to like a lecture. Like I said, if the reader just isn't capturing your attention, you're gonna doze off or look at something else and like, oh, what's happening over there. These things happen, but yeah, it's you have to think that was a thing, just like opening up a book without pictures and reading it and remembering it. That was the same way with me, and also with these magazines that I think are really cool, even at a collector's standpoint. Like I said, that the artists that were hired to do the covers are just fantastic, and yeah, I mean, it's not quite a lost art. Like it didn't go away; it's still there. It's just people prefer everything digital nowadays, and that's progression. That's where we're headed to. But it's really cool to look at the past and integrate it into the future. And things like audiobook, audio dramas, and Kindle. That's what's going on today, and that's cool too. Like I said, I do it myself, because it's more accessible. But every now and then, if it's something that I can't get through Audible or audiobook, yeah, I'll pick it up old fashioned, just read the best I can. But the magazines, like I said, especially Fangoria, definitely made me even want to direct even more, and be involved in film just to have that inside information and the interesting articles and what was coming up and stuff. Like the days before Google, before you could look all this stuff look all this stuff up. You had these magazines, which you could go to your local bookstore or drugstore and pick them up. Not so much now, but like they're still available. You could buy entire subscriptions online if you wanted to. So they're there. Like I said, just people prefer digital stuff. But it's cool. I hope it lasts even longer. And yeah, it was just fun. It's fun actually physically holding something. Kind of like how they're going with video games today. So I know every new model of game system, they're pushing the digital only thing. Like I don't think it won't be long until we start seeing game systems that don't have a disk drive anymore. I think we're heading in that direction too. I mean, what laptops do you see have disk drives? Unless you ante up more money for one. But I think that's going away. We're streaming more, downloading more, and just buying online as opposed to a physical copy. But there's always a charm, just like DVDs, Blu-rays, old VHS things. There's something about holding it. Like, I mean, what are they gonna do? Like, make toys digital now, like holograms? They probably will. But can't beat the classics. Can't beat opening up a cover or looking at the artwork of a book, whether it be a magazine or a novel or a graphic novel. I mean, we can't forget about them. Graphic novels inspired a lot of the movies we see today, 300 being one of them. It's all about visuals, and I'm glad to be a part of it, as I'm sure you guys, grew up the same way. And yeah, I mean, it's cool to think that we were able to enjoy it, and I hope it sticks around, for future generations. I hope it doesn't become a relic or a thing of the past, like an artifact. But yeah, that's really all I gotta say. Like I said, it's not quite a lost art, but I don't see it as much as I did. And as long as I'm still kicking, I'm gonna remind people about it. So yeah, that's my little, information and a little talk about magazines and the ones I read as a kid. And I'm sure I'm not the only one. I'm sure one of you passed through the aisle at CVS and saw these magazines too. Even the video game ones. Remember, like Game Pro or Tips and Tricks. Those were cool. But like I said, our cell phones kind of defeated that. We could just kind of like go online and check for stuff like that. But yeah, like I said, that stuff will never go away. And it was just fun. It was just fun. Physical, the physical entity of that product will always outweigh the digital one, even though the digital one's more accessible. But yeah, still, you gotta love the classics. And thank God, there's still printing presses. That's all I gotta say. All right, guys, thanks for listening. Hope you're all staying healthy and doing well, and yeah, behaving. All right, don't be mean. All right, guys. Till next time, peace.